How does clean, earthly, practical Virgo come together with the very intense, emotional, passionate Scorpio? If you are in a Virgo Scorpio romantic relationship already or want to be, this is the video for you. We will discuss it. Let's get to it. Hi everyone, this is Mina back with another love compatibility video. This one was requested by subscriber Angelina G. She wanted me to talk about Virgo Scorpio love dynamic, and I'm really happy to do that. So if you haven't already, hit subscribe for good luck so we can stay connected. Let's get into it, you guys. So Virgo and Scorpio coming together is a very interesting connection, and I do kind of mainly classify it as a deep mental connection here, and I will explain why. So what Virgo and Scorpio have in common is that they're both like detectives. They're very investigative people. Scorpio's fixed water, so they're very concerned with emotional control, and in order to maintain that control, they're constantly surveying their environment psychologically from that psychological, intuitive, emotional stance, psychologically profiling people to make sure that they're not threats because they don't want people to take what is theirs. They like to be very protective of their lives, information about them, anything like that. And Virgo is ruled by Mercury, and it is an earth sign, so it's mutable earth, Mercury. Very important. So they are very concerned with investigating the details of their day-to-day lives and routines that have to do with that earthly stability that they value very much. So they might not pay attention to every single stranger like Scorpio would, but if someone has any type of relevance in their daily life, they will be looking for patterns, very much so, paying attention to these people from an intellectual standpoint, wanting to know the details of how they say things, what are they doing on a daily basis, where are they going at this time. You know, they do have that detective energy going on where they're always looking for those details just for different reasons and from different points of view, basically. They also do value control in some sense. Both are more on the serious side of life. So Scorpio values controlling their emotions and who gets to know what about them, who gets to be close to them in that emotional way, which is so important for them. And Virgo is very, very much so wanting to keep their daily lives in order, organized, efficient, have control over that. They want control over what happens in their day-to-day lives, and they don't want to share that control with anyone else. So they both have these two very important things in common. The investigative, detective energy. I'm sure they could solve like cold case mysteries together that no one else would be able to. Find the Zodiac killer. And they also have this need for control and are more serious personality types. So I can imagine that Scorpio could be very much so drawn in, and keep in mind Scorpio is probably going to be the aggressor in this situation because they're ruled by Mars and Pluto, and that really is powerful, action-focused energy there, even if it's in the element of water, very emotional. So Scorpio is going to be watching this Virgo because they like to observe before they go in for the kill romantically, and they like to just see how their potential partner will react to things emotionally, how they think about things, and they want to do it from within the shadows. The Virgo is pretty easy to observe because they're very consistent. Most of the time Virgo sticks to routine, so they're predictable in that way. So the Scorpio will have a very easy time gathering the data it needs because Virgo leads a very organized, predictable, responsible life unless something else is interrupting this energy in their chart. So Virgo probably does notice the Scorpio noticing them from the shadows, because if they're involved in their daily life, then they're going to take notice. And on one hand, it probably stresses them out a little bit. Virgo is prone to stress and anxiety because they always are thinking, their brains are always on, and they're always trying to make their lives more efficient and perfect. But they're mutable, so two things can be true at once. So on the other hand, they're probably just flattered because they can sense that Scorpio is a very attractive person and is paying attention to them, and they like to be paid attention to, but they're just kind of shy and they're not as loud about needing that attention. that's where Virgo and Pisces kind of have a lot in common, both very shy personality types. So, and Virgo puts so much effort into their physical appearance. It's usually very clean. So it's kind of confirmation, the Scorpio's affection from the shadows, that Virgo is A+ work because they work so hard on themselves. So when this Scorpio and Virgo come together, they have a lot to talk about because you got the water detective Scorpio and the earth detective Virgo. They can probably share very unique, detailed insights on psychology or just people's daily habits. They probably would love like people watching together, I can imagine. They would have a lot to talk about here, a very strong mental connection. And during all that observation time, Scorpio noticed that Virgo is very kind. It is service-oriented in that earthly way. And Virgo and Pisces are like this. That's the axis of service in the zodiac wheel. They might not wipe your tears, but they'll buy you groceries. They're very practically service-oriented. And Scorpio can see that Virgo does these acts of services for the right reasons, and that makes them a good person. And Scorpio do like nice, kind people because they don't want someone that's going to hurt them come near them emotionally. Virgo can see that Scorpio is not a loudmouth, and I know that's weird because Virgo is a Mercury ruled sign, but Virgo is very prone to being like overstimulated, and Scorpio is kind of on the more quiet side, and that can be very comforting to Virgo. Although they have lots to talk about, Virgo can get really stressed out with really loud and obnoxious people because they're already have a lot going on in their minds. So if someone can hit them at the right stimulus level, it's very soothing for Virgo, and oftentimes Scorpio can do that with their cool demeanor. Scorpio, because they're so observant of Virgo's routines, can maybe pick up that Virgo gets stressed out easily, and they will probably step in because they are a very intuitive water sign and want to be of assistance to objects of desires or lovers or partners. So they will step in for Virgo and maybe help check off some of those things on the mile-long to-do list, help them ease their stress, and Virgo will be very appreciative of this because Virgo is very self-sufficient and doesn't count on other people helping them. They're usually the people that help others, so when someone steps in for them in that way, they can feel a lot of love from that. Scorpio could be drawn in by the reliability of Virgo. If they set up a date, Virgo honors earthly commitment, so they'll always show up for Scorpio on that day-to-day level, and they won't let Scorpio down in that way. And also Scorpio will show up for the Virgo in that way. So, and Virgo appreciates that because they are an earth sign, so they can both meet each other in that way. And they pretty much agree on commitment just for different reasons. So Scorpio is a obviously committed sign, wants to be very, very loyal to their lover because they're fixed, and ideally wants one relationship to last and to be very faithful to that person. And while Virgo might not have the emotional reasons behind that, unless they have water in their chart, they view it from a practical standpoint. If they make a commitment with someone that involves their daily life, then they will take that seriously, especially if it's verbally discussed because they're a Mercury ruled sign. So Scorpio can trust Virgo in that way, and Virgo can trust Scorpio in that commitment level way. And also, Scorpio is the master of emotions, and Virgo is not a very emotional sign, and they can maybe help Virgo open up a little bit in that emotional sense if they do it gently. And Virgo likewise can help Scorpio value earthly things, matters, take care of their body, because Virgo is very health conscious most of the time. So they could both benefit each other in this way. Scorpio can gain more power through being with Virgo because they're already masters of emotion, and Virgo can help them be that master of earth too and become more powerful, more intense in general. So this could be just a pretty great matchup, honestly, but it does have downfalls, and one of the downfalls is Scorpio really does need that emotional connection with someone, and oftentimes they will continue to test people beyond the initial testing phase just to see how far someone's willing to go for them, if someone's willing to suffer for them. And Virgo kind of doesn't operate like that. If you tell Virgo directly, hey, don't ask me about this issue, don't pry, leave me alone, Virgo's gonna leave you alone. Even if they know what you're doing because they're that detective, they can, be insightful in that way. They honor communication because they're ruled by Mercury, so if you're pushing them away verbally, they're going to honor that. They're going to say, okay, I'm not going to ask the Scorpio about this complex emotional issue because he directly asked me not to. But as we know with water signs, sometimes when a water sign says no, they really mean yes. And Virgo can really miss the mark in that way. And Scorpio can be frustrated because they're not being so direct, but they still need all of this love and investigative attention from Virgo that they're not getting. So a communication mishaps can happen here. So if Scorpio is willing to be more direct with the Virgo about what they need emotionally, and if Virgo is willing to rise to that challenge for their Scorpio, then they can get through this part. Another thing is that Virgo might not want to open up emotionally because emotions are not center stage in Virgo's life like they might be for Scorpio. And this can frustrate Scorpio because not only do they want Virgo to know them inside and out, they want to know the Virgo inside and out. And for them, just knowing them on that earthly level is not enough. They want to go beneath the surface and they want to know all the emotional things. And Virgo might not feel comfortable with that. They have emotions, but they might not feel comfortable talking about them all the time or really focusing for a lot of hours on stuff like that. That might make them very anxious and off balance, and they might just not be willing to go there with the Scorpio, and that can just feel like they're both not really getting what they need in that way. And this is a complex compromise, so I'm not even going to suggest any solutions. You let me know in the comments. Another thing, and I don't know if this is a bad thing or not, but when Scorpio can use that little stinger sometimes, it can use all of that deep information that they know about someone they love to hurt them sometimes if they feel threatened. And they're often very regretful about this. It's not something that they're proud of doing. It just happens. And the Virgo, you know, they're not going to emotionally react to that, but they will intellectually react to it, which can kind of throw Scorpio off a little bit because that could be insulting a little bit because Virgo's not answering with an emotional response. They're just like maybe being a little cheeky because Mercury can be cheeky when aggravated like that. And Virgo, another thing, Virgo values practical solutions. So if their lover has a problem, they're going to want to offer a practical solution to that problem because that's how they operate. And sometimes when Scorpio has problems, it's to do with their very intense emotions being out of balance. And they might not want that practical advice all the time that Virgo has to give. They might even be insulted by it, even though Virgo's just genuinely trying to help. So if the Scorpio could learn to just accept that this is Virgo's love language, and if the Virgo can kind of maybe try to gauge a pattern of when to use this practical standpoint and when not to, maybe there could be some growth here and some compromise that would happen. And another thing to do with the prying, Virgo is a silent investigator, as is Scorpio, so a lot of times they'll just be observing things and maybe they'll have questions that they want to know about one another that they'll just never ask. And this can just be like a stagnant thing in their relationship where they have so much curiosity about one another but are not comfortable enough to ask the questions they want to ask because one's water and one's earth, and they don't want to offend the other person. They don't want to push the other person away, so then they just end up not knowing the person very deeply. So that could happen, and that can be a very sad place for a Virgo-Scorpio relationship to be in. So definitely need to be a little bit braver with the communication on both ends, and if you really want to know something about one another, definitely ask. Scorpio is a very passionate lover, and this translates to physical affection and obviously other things, romance, and Virgo is more so methodical in this way. It is more like I'll wash your dishes type of thing, and that means I love you. But Scorpio is like, you know, let me give you hugs and kisses and all that, and I'm sure Virgo likes that. So Virgo might not initiate all the hugs and kisses stuff that Scorpio likes and all the romance, but they can play off of Scorpio's actions because they're very much so perfectionists. Virgo is a very methodical lover, so if Scorpio is giving Virgo X, even if they don't initiate that, they can replicate that response and give it back to Scorpio, and it might lose some of the emotion here because it is like a perfect response in that very methodical earthly way. But it's something, you guys, and I'm sure Scorpio doesn't mind that type of love. So yeah, Scorpio is very passionate with love, and Virgo can just be kind of more service-oriented in that practical, down-to-earth way. This can be a point of contention if Virgo's not always perfectly matching, even if in a methodical way. If Virgo's slacking in that way, Scorpio can get mad, and you know, Virgo could get stressed out because that might not just be a part of them. That might not be their needs like it is for Scorpio. So although there's a lot of unique issues, it's still a very beautiful connection here, guys, because they're both detectives, they're both very trustworthy, they both can teach each other stuff, and they're both very stable and reliable people, calming presences in each other's life when it's working best. All right, you guys, if you're in a Virgo Scorpio dynamic, let me know how it's going. I would love to know in the comments below, and I will see you in my next video. Bye.